Hello, my name is Andy Moore. I was a co-editor on the Staley documentary Fields of Gold. I'm sitting here with Jim Wilkerson, and we're going to discuss his new film about James Millikin. So tell us a little bit about your experience here in Decatur as a kid, and maybe when you first became aware of Millikin, maybe an early memory of Millikin.
Well, yeah, born, raised in Decatur, Mount Zion schools, then went to Millikin, English major, writing major, graduated in the class of '97, and that's the school history. But yeah, I've been here all my life, and don't know if I'll ever leave. I don't know.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, did you know of Millikin? Was it just always there, or were you, did your parents go there? You know, what kind of history did you have when you were younger?
Growing up, knowing, in high school that I wanted to go to college, I kind of had 2 or 3 options. My mother worked at Millikin. Okay. At that point, I knew I was going to have free tuition. And I knew we didn't have the money to really do anything else, so I had to take advantage of that. But within, I think there's a circuit of schools I could have used. I think Blackburn maybe was one, or Wesleyan. Not Blackburn. That's the hall. Or is it a university too?
I think it's a university.
I'm drawing a blank on that, but I know Wesleyan was one. So I kind of looked at a few, but I really wanted to stay around home. So Millikin was interesting to me. So that's why I chose Millikin. Is, well, financial was the biggest part, but I loved Millikin once I got here because I liked the smallness. And I remember, I think I was a freshman, maybe. I went to visit, I think ISU. One of my friends, Eric, from high school. He went to ISU, so I went to visit him. I think I was on a break or something. So I spent the night with him, and I went to one of his classes, and there were 300, 400 kids in this big auditorium. And I'm like, well, they're taking a test, and he wanted to go into political science or law enforcement. And he said, you can go ahead and take the test. They'll never know. I said, okay, I'll take the test. And so I took a test, and you have to put your Social Security number. They don't want to know your name. They want your Social Security number. So that was another little thing in my mind, like, that's why I like Millikin. You're not a number, you're a name. Mm-hmm. You're a person. That's the way I felt anyway. And so I took the test, and then the professor posted all the grades like the following week, and I got a D.
Okay.
I passed, but of course I didn't know anything about what they were doing, so I felt pretty good about getting a D on something I had no knowledge of. So, but that made me. That's one of the things that told me I made a good choice with Millikin, the smallness, and I felt, in your room of 20 students, maybe 30 at the most. And I felt like I could ask the professor questions. I felt like this is a place I can learn.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. How about the history of Millikin and the Millikin family, Millikin Bank? Millikin name is all over in Decatur. Did you have any experience or interest early on in that, or is it something you came to later?
Came to later. In high school, I didn't like the subject of history too much. My dad always did. I didn't understand why he did until after I was out of college, until later in adult life. I started really getting fascinated by history. But then around 2019 is when I started getting fascinated about local history. That's when the Staley pump house was going to be demolished. And I remember driving by that as a young boy. I remember being in a little fishing boat at one point, going by the pump house and just thinking how, Well, it kind of creeped me out. Here's this building that goes down into the water, and people are going inside the building. I always wondered what it was like inside. I always wanted to go inside. And you forget about it for, over time. But then when they said they're going to have to tear it down, I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I can still get in there. I'd like to get in there before they tear it down. I always wanted to. Well, I kind of asked around, just couldn't get in there. And I thought, well, I've lost my chance. And then so the wheels started turning in my mind. If you don't do things to preserve history, you'll lose your chance. And the time to save something isn't when you're talking about saving it, it's before it even becomes a topic. That's my opinion anyway. So it was that point in time where I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? What can I do about the pump house? Well, I do drone photography and video. I've never seen drone photos or video of the pump house. I'll just go take those and donate it to the Staley Museum. So I did that. They loved that. They asked me to produce a video about the pump house. So I did that. Now it's in their museum. It plays with the exhibit of the pump house. So that made me feel good that I at least did something to try to help save some of the history. And so that just got the ball rolling, and I joined the homestead, the James Millikin homestead, and then I started trying to, what other ways can I help using the gifts that God has given me, and so that's where this film came to be. But yeah, I didn't really think about the history too much until like the last 10 years, maybe. 5-10 years. You mentioned making a video. When did your interest in video production, maybe techie things, kick in for you in life? It was around 2001. I decided, well, the job I was in, my goal was to be a producer. And I was working for TCI Media Services that does television advertising. And 2 or 3 weeks into the job, a different company came in, AT&T, bought the company. They cut several positions. Mine was going to be one of them. I was able to stay on as a sales assistant. So I couldn't go the path I wanted to, but I was still there. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to teach myself this then. If I can't learn from the job that, what I wanted to, I've always figured if it's something I want to do, I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. And so I just decided I'm going to teach myself. And I had the producers there if I had a question about Photoshop or something like that. So I learned on the side at home, and then when I gained these skills, I started using those skills in my sales assistant position, and I grew my position within the company. And so even though that one door closed, it opened other opportunities because I didn't give up. I just kept, taught myself these things. But that was around 2001, and then my wife and I started our own little side business where we did wedding video. We did that for several years and then added photography. So we've been doing the wedding video and photography for 25 years. I think that 25 years this year, yeah. You mentioned getting involved at the James Millikin Homestead. Talk to us about, again, how you got involved and where that started. One of the board members, Douglas Warren, he and I were both on the Early Birds Kiwanis group, very early morning meeting, and he said, you might be interested in joining the board at the homestead. And so I checked it out, and at first I thought, yeah, I'm interested in this. I love this place. I'd like to be a part of it. So for a few months, I was happy to be a part of it because I loved the building and I loved the history. But then it wasn't just a few months into it. I thought, I actually love this because of the people and the board. It's a group of people. None of us are paid. And we're doing it because we believe in preservation. And we're all in the same boat. We're all working together. We all have different abilities and different talents, and we're all just trying to do something together for something good. And that's why I love it. So you joined the board, and that's one thing, but then making the decision to jump into the documentary
Tell us about that.
Well, it all stems back to, I think, September of 2023, at the premiere of the Fields of Gold movie, a story about A.E. Staley. I loved the movie, and I came out of that thinking immediately that James Millikin needs a movie. A.E. Staley, remarkable man, great legacy that he left, and still continuing on today. But James Millikin, I'm on the board of the Millikin Homestead. And so immediately I'm thinking, James Millikin is a great guy too, great history. And a lot, I've learned so far being on the board, but a lot I don't know. This is a great opportunity to produce something, do something good for the homestead and for the community. And I just jumped on it for several months. It was just an idea in my mind, so I just kept thinking about it. And then I started talking to others, people on the board, friends, and I had good support. People saying, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So that's how it all started.
Tell us about the producing of it. This was something that you decided to do yourself. Did you have any other financial support, or were you paying for this stuff out of your pocket, or how was that done?
Well, it's mainly been out of my pocket. The homestead's helped with a little bit of that, but part of doing everything on my own with my own money, it gave me more flexibility. And one of the things I knew early on, the more people I involved in something, the longer it's going to take. I knew the Staley movie took several years. I really didn't want to spend 5 years on this. I didn't know how long it would take, but I knew if I involved more people, the longer it's going to take. So if I do the work, I spend the money, it's all on my shoulders, and I can get it done on my timeline, and I can move a lot quicker. I've just learned that just in the real world, and in jobs. When you have the flexibility to do something, you have a vision, you have the authority to carry it out, you have the tools to do it, you can get it done. The more people you involve, sometimes it can be a better result, but sometimes it can be a huge headache too and a long process, and that's what I didn't want to do. I already had a full-time job, so this is all on the side, and I wanted to get it done on my timeline. So I spent a lot of money. I've invested a lot in equipment to do high quality, but a lot of working in the basement. But then also I made trips out to Pennsylvania to where James was born. Did over 20 interviews. So coming here at the homestead in the evenings, most of the interviews were done here, but some of them were out in Pennsylvania. So in the beginning, you had this great idea, and I was pumped. After 2 years, you're getting kind of tired. So I'm glad we're to the end of it, really.
Tell us about some of the difficulties maybe that you came across in getting a documentary done like this.
Well, I knew that probably one of the biggest hurdles I was going to have is just when a lot of the story took place. A.E. Staley, in early 20th century, you have a few more photographs than you do in the 18th century. Because I wanted to go back to James's ancestors all the way back to Ireland. So the story starts there. And then his grandfather moves to Pennsylvania in 1771. Not a lot of photos back then. You're right? Definitely no video. So I knew that the hurdle was going to be, how am I going to visually tell the story? I can write. I wrote the script, did the research, but how are you visually going to tell the story? So I knew I was going to have to, in the beginning I was like, am I going to be able to do this? That was a question. But AI is coming around, and so I dove into that. I had to spend money to invest in that, and I saw, hey, I think I might be able to get this done. Just like with social media, the internet, AI has its goods and its bads, but I think one of the goods is this. is being able to help tell stories, educate in ways that you couldn't before. And so, you know what, 6 months from now, there'll be better AI, and my film could have been even better. But at some point, you have to say, let's get this done and let it be what it is. But and someone else can make a new James Millikin documentary with new AI if they want to. But that was the big hurdle. How do you tell this story with visuals? You can't have a black screen with nothing. You know, you don't want to use. We have like 6, maybe 7 pictures of James Millikin. You can't use the same picture for 2 hours, so you have to tell it some way. So, but I feel like I've gotten over that hurdle with the help of AI, and then of course there's interviews and visiting the homestead in Pennsylvania and all of that. So, but I feel pretty good about what I was able to do.
You mentioned you wrote the script yourself. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I knew right off the bat my biggest resource was going to be the biography that Albert Reynolds Taylor wrote. He wrote that about James Millikin. It's called The Life Story of James Millikin, and that came out in 1926. So that book's 100 years old this year. Really, I could have used that only and made a film. Using that book, if I used everything, like you know, the film could be like 8, 9, 10 hours long. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to pick portions of that I felt had to be told, and then some portions that I thought, I bet the local community doesn't know about if they haven't read it. So that's really the meat of the film is from that book. But I wanted to go a little bit further than that. Now, Albert Taylor did quite a bit of research about James's genealogical background, the history of the family, but I wanted to go back to where that was. I didn't go to Ireland, but you did, and you shot a couple photos that's in the film, and I appreciate that. If I had the budget, I would have went there and did more research. I bet there's something over there about the Millikin family. But maybe someday someone with the resources and the money can do that and make this even better. But going back to Pennsylvania, though, that took a few months to figure out where the home was, figure out who currently owns it, figure out how to contact them, wait for a reply, then figure out where do you go from there. Can we come out and talk to you? Can we come out and film the area? So that took quite a bit of time. But I wanted to go back and do more research than just what Albert Taylor did. So once I was over there in Pennsylvania, going to libraries, and who knows what all time he had to research, but you know, I've used other books, make connections out there that for people who've researched some of that area. And there are some things that in the film that no one here in Decatur, I think, has ever heard about. I don't want to spoil it here, but if you watch the film, you're gonna learn some things that I don't think any historian in Decatur knew about James Millikin's past, knew about the family in that area. And so I'll just leave it at that. But making those connections, interviewing, and going to the libraries out there was a big help. So there are a number of books that I used in the research, but the biography really was kind of the meat of it all.
You've got several interviews in the documentary. Tell us a little bit about scheduling those interviews and deciding who to interview and the experience with those.
I think over 20 interviews, if I remember correctly. I wanted to get some historians. I wanted to get some people that are on the board of the homestead that have a lot of knowledge. And sometimes you do these interviews and they say, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. And there's one of those in this film that I think is spectacular. Again, I don't want to really spoil that too much, but sometimes, you know, one lead goes to another lead, And so,
And you have some great reenactments. Tell us a little bit about those.
yeah, a couple of reenactments. We have a guy, Wes Heinkel, president of Heinkel's Packing Company. He's our James Millikin. And he popped across my Facebook feed. I'd done some video for his parents before. And in a photo I saw him, immediately I thought, I think he would make a good James Millikin. And so I reached out to him, and he was willing to do it. And then his wife joined along with some shots, Paulina. So both of them were in some shots. And then I also have Brody Archer, who plays a coal baron in the film. There's a spot in the biography where Albert Taylor meets a coal baron on a train, and this coal baron says, "Hey, James Millikin I owe my life, my business to James Millikin." So there's all these stories that can kind of pop out, and if I were to work on this for another 2 years, 5 years, there'd be more stories, I'm sure. Yeah, so those leads kind of led to other things, but very small cast. That's another thing. I could have done more reenactments. It's very difficult. I applaud you guys for all you did at the Fields of Gold movie, but that's a lot of work. And for one person, I had to pick and choose what I was going to do. So,
Jim, thanks for sitting down with me today. You've got a fantastic documentary, and I wish you all the best.
thanks a lot, Andy. Appreciate your time.